343 Guilty Spark in Halo Combat Evolved is one of the best FPS levels ever made, and it's packed full of horrifying details it's very easy to miss. I've already thoroughly analysed the mission, click the card on screen now to watch that, but there were some things I missed or purposely left out, and so I've decided to make a definitive list of sorts which runs through each and every one of them in quick succession. So let's dive right in. Before you even begin 343 Guilty Spark proper, you can actually stay on the Pelican at the start instead, which will then ferry you out of bounds. A very creepy marine using the model of Private Mendoza can be found, and he was likely placed there to be used later on during one of the level's cutscenes. Exploring the swamp the intended way, the first thing you'll likely notice is the downed Pelican, and if you listen carefully, you can hear someone talking about some new kind of hostile over the radio.
We are attacked by some new kind of hostile that isn't Covenant. Captain Keyes has been captured by hostiles. Dug in at a large structure in a swamp. Can hold out. Please.
You can also stock up on ammo outside, and if you're playing on easy difficulty and only easy difficulty, you'll be able to grab a shotgun as well. Mere meters away, you might spot a few Covenant getting blown up and plummeting to the ground from the ridge above. There's also a downed Covenant dropship nearby, and immediately after you can spot one of the Flood watching from above. Crossing a log next, your radar will light up with lots of yellow dots, which is likely it reacting to you secretly being surrounded by an enemy it does not yet recognise. The Flood appear to the right of the log, they appear straight ahead of you, and there's even one which darts through the swamp that is particularly tricky to get a good look at. If you're quick enough, you can even kill some of them too. Approaching the facility, a group of Covenant flee from its entrance as assault rifle fire and explosions light up the swamp. If you use the out of bounds trick to reach this area and then jump down, you'll discover that floating assault rifles are to blame. If you do things the intended way, you'll clear the area and likely notice that there are no elites in sight, nor will there be any for the entirety of the level. As you'll later find out, that's because they've all been infected by the Flood. Before we head inside, there is one final detail too. If you listen closely, you can hear gurgling noises in the distance that sound distinctly Flood-like. Heading down the lift, you'll come across another group of Covenant who are looking into the facility rather than watching for anyone entering, which suggests they're trying to stop something getting out. Their deployable shields are also facing in the same direction too. At this point, you'll have no choice but to jump down into the next area to continue on, but before you do, it's worth turning around and heading back up the elevator. If you choose to do so and you then search the area close by, you'll stumble upon the bodies of several Marines who definitely weren't there previously. Given one of them looks like Captain Keyes, it's safe to assume they've been loaded in for the mission's midpoint cutscene rather than there being any reason for their appearance in story terms, but it's quite unsettling nonetheless. Back inside, you can find 2 dead Marines in the first large room after you drop down. I've absolutely no idea who they are or why they're there, however. As you near the Flood's reveal, things begin to get even darker. A strange yellow fluid constantly drips from the ceiling in one of the rooms, and the walls of one of the connecting hallways is covered in jackal blood. There's also a room round the corner which contains a similar sight. It's full of Covenant bodies and blood, and it looks as if the occupants tried to barricade themselves inside. In the next large room, you'll again find Covenant defences, this time turrets, which are surrounded by bloodstains and set up to stop things leaving rather than entering. This time they're pointed at a door marked with 2 red symbols, and there is a reason for these markings above the doors. 2 red symbols are a warning, letting those who once used the facility know that the Flood are kept inside. Blue symbols mark safe areas, and a purple symbol means an elevator is on the other side. As you exit this room, you'll also pass a ton of Needler ammo lying on the ground, presumably gathered to help the Covenant battle whatever was on the other side of the door. 343 Guilty Spark is the only level that features Needler rounds as a pickup, and you'll see them once more a little later on as well. There are also some boxes placed just below the platform where the door is situated, and I do wonder whether this was Bungie intentionally giving you a way of skipping part of the level. You can stand on them and use a grenade jump to propel yourself upwards, which allows you to miss a couple of rooms so you can head straight to the mid-mission cutscene. Given it's not a particularly big skip, you'll probably use the usual route through the facility and cross paths with the crazed Marine.
Stay back!
Stay back! You're not turning me into one of those things! I'll blow your brains out! Get away from me! Ah! Ah! Don't touch me, you freaks! I won't be like you, I'll die first! Find your own hiding place, the monsters are everywhere!
Remember him, as he will be mentioned again shortly. The room he's in is also caked in more Covenant blood, which makes for a very macabre scene indeed. After passing a single deceased Marine, the level's halfway cutscene begins. In its entirety, it's basically an homage to the film Aliens, especially the Elite with its chest burst open and these two lines.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, you always got a bad feeling about something.
Some claim they're a reference to Star Wars, but they are 100% an Aliens reference due to the second line. In Aliens, Frost says, "Man, I'm telling you, I've got a bad feeling about this drop." And Crow follows up with, "You always say that, Frost. You always say, I've got a bad feeling about this drop." The video finishes with abbreviations for wounded, incapacitated, and killed in action displayed along the bottom with a question mark, as if the system can't actually figure out what happened to the Marine in question. Upon its conclusion, you'll quickly realise you're in the same room thanks to the bloodstains and weapons, except all the Marines, alive or dead, have mysteriously vanished, as has the corpse you walked past on your way into the room. With the facility now infested with flood, certain empty holding rooms you passed on your way in will now have flood locked inside, trying desperately to get at you. If you continue to head in the direction you came, you'll arrive back at the elevator you rode in on, except when you press the button to call it, flaming wreckage falls down the shaft in front of you. The only choice is to use another elevator, which takes you further down, and its shaft has Covenant blood smeared all over it. Judging by the blood pattern, there are two explanations as to what happened. Either Covenant troops threw themselves down there to escape the flood, or they were thrown down there by them. Neither makes for a very happy ending. At the bottom, it looks like some Covenants did manage to barricade half the exit to the room, and at the top is an overshield as a reward for the observant. There are still some Marines left too, with 3 of them charging in from the opposite end of this room, although they usually die so quickly that you may not even realise they were there at all. Remember the crazed Marine earlier? Well, you can actually find the body of a lone Marine with a pistol next to him. There's no other evidence that they are the same person, but in my view they are one and the same, as it seems like a bit too much of a coincidence otherwise. Speaking of the dead, my favourite detail in the entire mission is this one here. The bodies of 2 Marines and 2 Jackals lie on top of some rubble surrounded by ammunition including more Needler rounds, the suggestion of course being that they died fighting together during one last stand against the flood. Reaching the surface and meeting up with a group of Marines, there is one final disturbing detail that only becomes apparent once you finish the game. This is the last level in the campaign during which you get to fight alongside them. Considering how many are included in all of the levels prior to this one, it's a pretty scary indication of just how quickly the flood managed to run through whatever allies were left on the installation. And that is the very last detail you might have missed during Halo Combat Evolved's incredible 343 Guilty Spark. Hopefully, this video has helped highlight just how jam-packed it is with brilliant environmental storytelling and how well it builds atmosphere from beginning to end. I'm hoping I have actually managed to spot everything possible, but with how much there is, there may well still be 1 or 2 things I've not noticed. Do let me know if you think you've found anything. And with that, thanks for watching the video, boys, girls and Spartans. If you had a frightfully good time, do consider liking, subscribing and sharing your thoughts, and hopefully I'll catch you all again soon.